Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Crystal, Bacon Cooking Great Again. I'm going to do a couple projects today. One of the first things I'm going to start though is some turkey bacon. So I'm going to get this started on the stove. And then I have a few recipes that I'm going to go through with some sourdough discard. So I know people have been interested in that. So I figured we would do that today. So let's get started. So I got this bacon at Costco. It's a large pack. I'll probably only do 2 of them and put the other 2 in the freezer. And then I have my cast iron here, and I'm going to use some of my beef rendered tallow to cook this in. It gives it really good color, really good flavor, and it's a good alternative. I'm finding it harder to find the beef bacon again, and I don't eat pork, so this is another good option when it's cooked in the beef tallow and it's cooked with some nice coloring on it. I have this on too, so you might hear that with water warming up because of a lot of sourdough recipes, sourdough discards and that, we need warm water. And I don't use my tap water because of the chlorine from the soy water. So I have to get my filter water heated up for that. Again, this is just some of our beef tallow. So we'll get that into our pan. And I'll save that in case we need to add any more as we cook our turkey bacon. And I like to cook up several packs so that way I have some for the rest of the week also. Okay, so we have this cooking, and while this is cooking, I'll lower the temperature here. I'll go in and bring you over here and we'll get our dough started for our tortillas, for the sourdough starter or discard tortillas, because we're probably going to use some of them making breakfast with some of this bacon this morning. Alright, so this is the recipe that I'm using for the soft sourdough discard. I'll link this in the description below. And what this recipe calls for is going to be, sorry, let me turn that water off. We're going to need, excuse me, for a single recipe, 1 cup of sourdough discard. I'm going to actually double the recipe. So I have this sourdough discard that I've had in the refrigerator. Perfectly fine. It stays good. There might even be some hooch on top, which is fine. And I have a couple of them. So I want to try to use these up today in all these different recipes. So I'm going to need 2 cups of that. We're going to need 2 cups of flour. Again, as I always suggest, unrich, unbleached flour is best. And we're going to need 1/4 cup of olive oil, so we'll double that. I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use the avocado oil instead. I'll think about that, or melted butter even. Then we're going to need salt, and then warm water if the dough's dry. So we'll go ahead and start getting our ingredients in here and get this started. So what we're going to start with here in our bowl is going to be our discard, our flour, our oil, and salt. So we'll go ahead and start getting that measured out now. So this is just a 1 cup measuring cup. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a mix from the sourdough discard. You can see it has a little bit of what we call that hooch on the top, which is fine. It's a healthy sourdough. So I'm just going to give it a little mix and mix that back in. And again, we're going to need 2 cups of it, which I think this is, but we're going to measure it out just to make sure. I don't know if I mentioned everything that we're going to make today, but okay, so here's 1 cup. We're going to do sourdough discard tortillas, sourdough discard crackers, and some sourdough discard pretzel bites. My husband is a big fan of pretzel bites, so I thought that would be a nice treat. Alright, so there's our 1 cup. We're going to get 1 more cup in here. Alright, so it looks like we will need just a little bit more. Another container. And that's why I love these deli containers, being able to put this in the refrigerator and then grab them out as I need them. So that's always nice. Give it a little smell, make sure it doesn't smell funky. To me, sourdough smells amazing. I love the smell of sourdough. Some people don't like it, but I do. If you never smelled it, it's almost like a, I don't know, like alcohol kind of. Maybe that's why I like it. I don't know. I like the smell of it, but that's just me. Okay, and there's our 2nd cup of sourdough starter. So we'll put that in here. I'm going to just set this aside because I'm going to use it again with other recipes. And that'll be fine. I'll wipe that up a little bit. I did make a bit of a mess. All right. I'm also going to check on my turkey bacon real quick. Give me 1 second while I should have been a little more prepared, had more stuff out, but anyway, this is life. How it goes when you're in your own kitchen cooking. I decided I'm going to go ahead and go with the olive oil. So we'll use that in the tortillas instead of the avocado oil. Thank you for that moment. Alright, so we have our 2 cups of sourdough discard here. Now we need 2 cups of flour. So we'll go ahead and get that measured out. You want to kind of fluff it up a little bit so it's not so compact. There we go. That's how you can end up with more flour than what the recipe calls for. We're actually, since we're doubling this, we're going to need a total of 4 cups of flour. There's 3 and 4. Now these freeze really well. I know whenever I've bought store-bought or anything, they've frozen well in the other kind I've made. So that's why I want to double this recipe. That way I have some I can put in the freezer also. It says it makes 8 tortillas, but we'll see what size we get. Now I'm going to need, in total, because it's a 4th cup olive oil, I'm going to need a 1/2 cup of olive oil. So we'll go ahead and get that in. And then our salt. And if needed, I have warm water ready. So, all right. So again, we're going to need a 1/2 cup of olive oil. We'll need it again too, so I'll just save all these measuring apparatuses. There we go. And I'm going to get just a little bit of warm water ready, just in case we do need it. So let me grab that. All right. So I actually do heat it on the stove in my kettle. So we have that ready. Now we're going to give this a mix. And then we're going to knead it once we get it all mixed together. We do need to add our salt. I almost forgot the salt. So we're going to need a teaspoon of salt, because it calls for a 1/2. teaspoon of salt. Get that mixed in also. That is really kind of dry. And it says to use the water if your dough is dry. I'm going to give it just another minute hydrating the flour with the sourdough and see if we need to add any so we can get this to come together. And then we're going to flour our surface and knead our dough. I'm going to go ahead and pull the first batch of bacon out of the cast iron. Okay, so it looks like we are going to need to add some of that water. Again, it says 2 to 4 tablespoons of warm water. So we'll go ahead and add 3 tablespoons. Since it says 2 to 4 and we're doing double, ours would be 4 to 8. I think we'll start with 4 and see how that does. And it really just depends on how hydrated your sourdough starter is also. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we definitely need to add some more. I'm going to go ahead and add all 4. It's pretty dry. There we go. Looks like we're coming together a little bit better here. You can see that in the hydration. Like I said, this is the first time I've made the sourdough discard tortillas, any of these actually, so except for the crackers. I haven't made the crackers before. So this will be a nice learning experience. And I'm going to go ahead and get my surface floured so we can start kneading our dough. Take my ring off. I'm going to just use this silicone mat that I have for this purpose. I like having this mat. It also kind of gives you the size too. So that's helpful. We're just going to just a very little flour because we don't want to put too much more into it because it's still pretty dry. But we'll have more as we need it. And we're going to knead this for about, it says, 2 minutes. So we'll go ahead and get it on our floured surface. I'll just set this aside. And before I start kneading, I'm going to take the rest of that bacon out and switch it in. And this is what the turkey bacon is looking like when you cook it in the beef tallow. Put nice coloring on it. So I switched that out now. We wash my hands and we'll start kneading our dough. You might hear my granddad upstairs barking. I don't know what he's doing, but he's playing. So that's life. Especially when you have dogs and animals and children and husband. Okay, now we're going to start pulling our dough together and kneading this. And it again just says, you know, to knead this for about 2 minutes. And at that time it should all come together. I quit throwing it everywhere. Now, I don't know where in the country you live, but we have a store called H-E-B, here in Texas, and they make homemade flour tortillas daily. And my son is a huge fan. And he's always like, Mom, make tortillas. So I figured I would do a twofer with this. Make some for using now and for him to have, and use up some of my sourdough discard and see how we like it. So just gonna get all of these pieces everywhere in here and incorporate them into our dough. It's really coming together nicely. But we want to make sure there's like no dry clumps of flour in here. It's feeling really good. It's getting coming together really well. So that's nice. Now once we're done kneading this, we're going to let this rest for about 10 to 15 minutes, which will make it easier for rolling because the gluten will relax, and it'll make it easier for us to work with in rolling out our tortillas. So that's why I wanted to get this started while I was cooking the turkey bacon, because I figured I could let this rest, so by the time that's done, then I can make some of our fresh tortillas. So let me finish kneading this and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so we have our dough and it's been kneaded, so I'm going to put it back in the bowl now, and we're going to let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'll go ahead and cover it, and then we'll come back and I will weigh the entire dough ball, and then I'm going to measure them out by weight, so that way I can get even portion sizes. So we'll set this here, and we will let that rest about 10 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and finish my turkey bacon and we'll bring it back. Okay, so our turkey bacon, as you can see, is done. So we're going to start measuring out our tortillas. I also want to mention that I am shredding my own cheese because we're going to need this for our cheese crackers. So FYI, in case you need to prep that ahead of time. And I would suggest shredding your cheese fresh instead of using the store-bought shredded cheese, but of course you can. It's just going to have the anti-caking agents on it, and this will give you a better melt. Okay. Okay, friends, so we've let our tortilla dough rest. Also, we finished cooking the turkey bacon, and I did shred up 2.5 pounds of cheddar cheese because we're going to need that for our cheese cracker recipe. So what I'm going to do now is I do have my scale. So I'm going to weigh out the entirety of the dough, and then I'm going to do the math to divide that into equal parts depending on what the size is, on what weight we want. And then we'll go ahead and start rolling out our tortillas. In the meantime, I do have this cutting board here with some dry wax papers that I get. I think I get this at Sam's. They're already cut. And I'm going to just put them on here to put our tortillas as we roll them out. In the meantime, I'm going to heat up my cast iron. I did wipe it out after cooking the bacon, so that way I can use it to cook our tortillas in. We do want to get it pretty warm, so we'll get started on this now. Take out our, it feels really good. So we'll get our scale on, and we're going to do it in ounces for this purpose. There we go. All right, we're at 49 ounces. Okay, so I think we measured or weighed out our dough here. We're going to weigh it out in ounces. And we're at 49.35 roughly in ounces. So we'll see if we can do maybe 12 or 4 ounces. We'll see what size we get with that. So let's go ahead and start separating these out to see what size we can get. And we'll see what size 4 ounces. I think that might work best. Yeah, that's a good size, I think. All right, and I'll just finish weighing these out before we actually roll them out. Let's see here. It's a little bit more. There we go. I think these will give us a good size tortilla. And what I'm doing is when I roll them up, I'm putting them back here in my bowl. And then I'll cover them with a towel as I roll them so they don't dry out. Probably, there we go. Getting pretty good at the 4-ounce size. All right. There we go. Oh, sorry about that. They smell really good. You can really smell the sourdough. Which, again, I love the smell of sourdough. I also did want to mention, in the beginning, I was talking about using my avocado oil. I'm going to go to get these covered, too. And the reason I decided to go ahead with the olive oil is because I was checking kind of the different fats and what it does in the tortillas and the difference it makes. And olive oil makes a softer tortilla, whereas if I did, and don't get me wrong, lard or butter would too, but if I were to do that, from what I see on here, the most authentic is the lard or the tallow, and the butter will be rich and flaky, but it'll be crispier, and I really want the softest tortillas that I can get, pliable, so that's why I went ahead and made that decision. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. I'll finish weighing these out. See how many we end up with. I think this will give us 11 and 12. More of that one. Perfect. Okay, so we're good there. I'll just, again, put these in bowls and put them back in my bowl, and then I'll roll each one out. We're gonna flour our surface just a little bit. I just wanna make sure that these don't dry out while I'm rolling each of them, and you really wanna roll them as thin as possible. And I'm also going to go ahead and get my cast iron heating up for cooking them. Now I'm using the same one I cooked the turkey bacon in. We want to make sure and get that nice and hot. And I just wiped it out with cast iron. It's forgiving like that, and you can just wipe it out. All right, so I'm going to just put a little bit of flour down, and going to dust my rolling pin with some flour also, so we can get this rolled out as thin as possible. All right, now, like I said, I've not made this kind before. I have made tortillas, so we'll see how we can get these rolled out, and we want to make them as thin as possible as well. Sounds like I have some chickens knocking on the back door. And I keep moving them around, so that way it kind of stretches them out and shapes them more how we want them. They're not going to be perfectly round, but, you know, they'll still be delicious, edible, and they'll be good. I do want to make a kind of large tortilla, so maybe 10 to 12 inch is what I'm shooting for. So that's why I like rolling them on this guide, because this kind of tells me what size I've got them rolled out to. And that way I can reach the desired size that I want. You want them really thin, almost like window pane thin, if you've ever heard that saying, where you can kind of see, like I'll be able to see the red of this in the background once I've rolled it out. I don't know if you can see from there, but I am starting to see it. I'm just gonna give this a turn. Looks good. Now, instead of putting this one on here, this one I'm going to actually get in the pan first and start cooking it, and then I'll keep rolling them all out. And that's why I have the wax paper here, so I can roll them out and separate them so they don't stick to each other. Yeah, that looks about the size that I want. It's not perfectly rounded, but it will be delicious and it will get the job done, which is filling bellies. Okay, so I like how this one's turned out. I'm gonna go ahead and get it into my cast iron, so I'll show you that. And so you can see this is pretty hot, so we're gonna put that tortilla in here. And we're only gonna cook it for about 30 to 60 seconds on each side. So we'll let that cook and it'll start to bubble up. And then we'll flip it over, cook the other side, and then I have a towel that I'm going to set it in. That'll stay in there and it'll steam. So this is what I'll put them in once they're done and fold them in the towel. And then I will roll out the rest and get those done. So I just want to show you this one, and then I'll do the rest and bring you back. So we just set that right there for when they're done and set them on that. And you can see it's starting to get the bubbles. Oh, see. I'm just gonna get this to give me a hand up. Ooh, it's nice and toasty. So it's been just about 30 seconds, 40 seconds, somewhere around there. But yeah, you can see it's bubbling up. And I think we'll go ahead and give it a flip. And see how it's gotten some color on it now. Now it's gonna cook on that side for about 30 seconds to a minute. And then we'll take it out and put it in there, and then I will roll the rest out and get those cooked up. They smell absolutely delicious. We do want to make sure that's cooked all the way through. And you also want to make sure that you start with a really hot cast iron. And again, I just use the same cast iron I cook my turkey bacon in, which is the beautiful thing about cast irons is you can just wipe it out and it's good to go. Especially if it's really well seasoned. And you can see all the air that's in there, the steam coming out, that's cooking it inside. So that's what we want. You don't want to overcook it though, because then it'll get hard and it won't be as soft or pliable. And that looks good. See on that side, it's looking really well. And I think we're gonna call that good. We're going to remove that and set it in again in our towel here and cover the tortilla up with our towel so it'll steam. And then I will go ahead and finish rolling the tortillas out, and I'll bring you back when they're done. Okay, I have all my tortillas rolled out now, and we could stop here. You see the way I have them all layered in here and rolled out. But and freeze this. You've probably seen the store where you can buy them rolled out like this. They're fresh, and then you just take them home and cook them. But I'm not going to. I'm going to do like you saw me do in the first example. I'm going to go ahead on my heated cast iron and go ahead and cook all of these up, and I'll show you that when they're done. I just have our cast iron heated up again, continuing to cook them. Again, you do about 30 to 60 seconds each side is all you want to do. And then flip. And then I would put them in a towel when you're done so they steam and it'll keep them soft. So we have all of our sourdough discard tortillas now. Nice and soft and pliable and ready for use. So now what we're going to do is get started on our sourdough discard pretzel bites. And while that dough rests, then we'll do our sourdough discard cheese crackers. Also wanted to take a minute to show you, shout out to my kiddos. They got me this for Valentine's Day. If you didn't know, today is February 14th. So they brought me these and some chocolate covered strawberries. I feel very spoiled. So I made some turkey, bacon, egg, and cheese burritos / tacos out of these tortillas. So these are for the hubs. And I'll get him to try them out and test them out. And then I'll get started on our next recipes. Okay, so what we're going to start now is our sourdough discard pretzel bites recipe. Calls again for 1 cup, but I have 2 cups in here because I'm doubling this recipe as well. And I do have a recipe I can also link below. And we're going to need 2 cups of warm water, 1 for a single recipe, 2½ cups all-purpose flour, so I'll need 5 for the double recipe, 1 tablespoon of sugar, so I'll need 2, 1 teaspoon of salt, so I'll need 2. And then for one of the steps, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda into water to bring to a boil, because we'll do a quick boil of the dough, which is what gives it that signature pretzel crust when we bake it. So we'll go ahead and get the sourdough starter, the warm water, the sugar, and the salt in here mixed together. So I do have some water here, but I think I am going to need more. So let me measure that out. We need a total of 2 cups, like I said, of the water. This is a 3rd cup, so we're going to do 3 of these for 1, 2, that looks like right there, and 3. So that's 1 cup. All right, so there is our 2 cups of water. To our 2 cups of sourdough starter. And now we're going to add our total of 5 cups of flour. Actually, no, we're going to add the sugar and the salt, then we'll add the flour. So we need 2 tablespoons of sugar. And I use the organic sugar here that I get from Costco. It's raw, and so that's why it looks kind of brown. We're going to add 2 of these, 2 tablespoons. 1 recipe will just be 1. I have quite a bit of sourdough starter, which is why I'm doubling these recipes, so a lot to use up. And then we are going to need 2 teaspoons of salt. 1 for a single recipe. So there's our 2 teaspoons of salt. Give this all a mix. I'm actually going to move this until we're ready to knead our dough, which we will. So we're just going to kind of mix all this together. All right, I'm going to kind of get that out. It'll be fine. Wash my hand out. I'm going to get my Danish dough hook, or Danish whisk. Excuse me. There we go. a little easier. And now we'll start adding our flour. A total of 5. So there's 1, 2, 3. After I do the 4, I'm going to give it a mix. That's 4. And we'll see if we need the full 5th cup or how much we want to add of it. So we'll go ahead and start stirring this in. Yeah, it's still pretty wet, so we'll go on and add more of our dough in here. And get that incorporated into a dough ball before we put it out on our surface here to knead. Let's see, maybe half of it there. We're getting a nice dough forming now, as you can see. Still a little sticky, but I do still have almost a half a cup of flour to add if we need it. Take my ring off here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back out now so we can knead our dough on here. And I'm going to use our flour that we still have left from that last cup, so that way we're only incorporating as much as we've measured out. And we're going to get this on our surface and start kneading it. And the reason I wanted to go on and start this now before the crackers is because this dough will rest for 30 minutes at least before the next step. And in the meantime, then I can do the cracker dough and get that done. So we'll go ahead and get this on our surface here, or get this out. There we go. Looks good. You know, as big of a mat as it is, I still missed it. But we're gonna knead this dough now and incorporate all this flour. And like I said, I'm only using the flour that the recipe calls for, so if I need more, I have some left here that I can add to it. And we're just gonna knead this, it says, for about 5 minutes until smooth. So we'll just get to work on this. Definitely an arm day. With all the kneading that I've done and with shredding the cheese. Who says cooking from scratch isn't work? It's definitely worth it though, I'll say that. We did thoroughly enjoy those homemade tortillas and making them into breakfast burritos with the turkey bacon that I made and some of that fresh shredded cheese and some of our homegrown eggs. So those were delicious. Try as they may though, my husband did not want to eat or sample on camera. That's okay. He doesn't have to. No worries there. And you can see I'm really incorporating a lot of the dough or the flour that we have here. It's still a little sticky, so I'll probably add some more of our flour to it. Let me make sure I have all of that on here. This mat really comes in handy. Yeah, we're still really quite sticky, so we're gonna add some more and work in more of our flour. There we go. And we'll use this mat again for the crackers for when we roll them out. So it's really coming in handy. We just want to really knead this to a soft, supple dough. Okay, that's all of our flour there. So that should be all that we need. And work into our pretzel dough. I'm pretty sure I did mention that's what we're making here. So this is for our pretzels. Good. You can see that all nice and kneaded together here. So I'm going to set it in our bowl and cover it. And I'll let that rest for 30 minutes. And then we'll get started on our cheese cracker dough. Okay, I'm just going to move this dough ball and let it rest in this bowl here. And I'll use that one again for the cheese crackers. So I'll set this aside for now. And we'll start on the cheese cracker recipe. We're going to use the same bowl since we've been doing them all in here. I already did measure out 2 more cups of sourdough discard I have. So this is the last of the discard I have saved up in the refrigerators. So we'll go on and get that in here for our crackers. Again, this is a double recipe also. And hopefully this helps you with some ideas on how to use up that sourdough discard. Don't throw it away. It's very useful. There's a multitude of recipes and things you can do with it. I'm just giving you 3 ideas or ways. Okay, so there's our 2 cups of sourdough starter there. And then to our sourdough starter, we're going to put, or discard, excuse me, we're going to put shredded cheese, which we need, since I'm doubling it, 2 cups of sourdough discard. We're going to need 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. We're going to need 2 cups of flour. And it does say you can substitute with gluten-free flour if you can't do the gluten. Then we're going to need in total a teaspoon of salt, and then we'll add garlic powder and some onion powder. And it looks like we're going to need 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I use salted. I don't differentiate for it. So what we're going to do then is get our butter melted and get everything into our bowl here. So now we need our shredded cheese, which I did shred this cheddar cheese earlier. So I have fresh shredded cheese. I suggest using this because it doesn't have the anti-caking in it like store shredded cheese does. I mean, up to you, but that's my suggestion. And this is a 1/2 cup measuring cup, so I'm going to do 4 of these to get my 2 cups. So 1, 2, and you can use any cheese, honestly. You don't have to use cheddar. We like the cheddar. I have made sourdough cheddar crackers before, not this specific recipe, but it's delicious. I like the cheddar. We like the cheddar. You can use Parmesan, Monterey Jack, a combination of cheeses. Really, it's up to you what you want to put in your crackers. We're going to have that done. I have the melted butter there. I'll give it a minute to cool just a second. We have our garlic powder and onion powder here. I'm just going to add a little bit. It says technically a 1/4 of a teaspoon or extra as optional. We like garlic around here. Can you really have enough? I don't know. But we're going to add what we feel is a good amount. And then some onion powder also. There we go. And then we're going to need our butter. And we'll only add water as needed if it gets too dry. I mean, you can do other spices if you wanted to, entirely up to you. This is our butter melted that we're going to add now. And I'm going to give that kind of a little stir, and then we're going to get our flour added in. Looks good. And we're going to add in, well, it calls for a cup of flour, so we'll see how we do. We'll go in and add 1 cup and then go from there because it would technically be 2. I mean, we do want this more dry. So there's the 2 cups. And then if we need to add any liquid, if it's too dry, we can add some water. Now this we're actually going to, once it comes together, put between 2 pieces of parchment paper and roll it out. And then we'll cut out the crackers and put them on our pan. So what I'm gonna do actually, real quick, is preheat my oven to 350. And grab parchment paper. You can really smell the garlic and the onions. It smells really good. Okay. So if it's too dry, that's when we'll add just a little water till it forms a smooth dough. And then we'll roll it out between the 2 sheets of parchment paper. We want it about 1/8 of an inch thick. So it looks like we're starting to come together. I'm gonna pull all this off of here. Kind of get in with my hands. After all, your hands are your best tools. It's nice having other tools in the kitchen, but end of the day, your hands are your best tools. So I want all this to come together. And you can see it's really starting to form a ball, which is what we want. Move this over just a bit. There we go. So that's come together really well. So what I'm going to do now is grab our parchment paper and get this set up so we can roll that out. I'm going to do it about the size of the sheet here. I'm going to need 2 of them. All right. So now that we have this down, we're going to take our cracker dough out here. I'm going to take a second and put some hot water in this bowl. So now we have our dough here. We're going to set our other parchment paper on top. I'm going to give it a push down to give it a start and get our rolling pin going. I wonder if we need to do this into 2. It's pretty big. We might need to do that. I'm going to do 1/2 and then do the other, and we'll see how that goes. So it's pretty thick as far as the way it's in there. So I'm going to just set that right there. So 1/4 of an inch thick. So we have a ways to go. I do have several rolling pins, but I've been using this one today because it got the handles, so it's easier than if I were using like my silver one, for example. It doesn't have handles, it's just the pin itself. So this gives me more flexibility, I think, in this situation or this kind of rolling. We're really bunching this up. The sourdough crackers I've done before are more like a liquid dough. So this is more like an actual bread dough. So it's a little different. This is why I wanted to separate them though, because I felt like it was going to be a little tougher rolling them out. So I think that was a good call since I did double the recipe to get them to the size that we want them as. And then we'll cut them into our cracker shapes and then put little holes in the top, just like we would a cracker. Parchment paper. I'm going to give it a try just to see. I feel like that's kind of causing more of an issue than just rolling it out. Oh, that feels like much, yeah, that's, to me, that's much better. Yeah, I think we'll go with this without the parchment paper between them. And we'll just use that parchment paper on our pan for when we're baking. And our oven is now ready. So that's good. That is much, much better. Much better. Okay. Getting to the edge there. So I need a little more room. That's all right. You can probably hear my little dog back here snoring. It's what she does, you know. I ain't mad at her. Let her relax and live her life. She likes just hanging out in the kitchen, watching Mama, hoping that I drop her something. All right, so that looks so much better and a lot more simple. I've got these baking pans that I'm going to use for the crackers. So I'm going to take that parchment paper and I'm going to put it on our pan here for adding that. So I think that'll be the easiest. If it even needs it. Yeah, it does. Lined with parchment paper. So I'm going to get a, let me check the thickness real quick, and then I'm going to get my pizza cutter to cut the crackers out with, and we'll get this on the pan, and then we'll start on our other half there. So let's check our thickness. Should be 1/8. Yeah, that looks good. So we'll use this for poking the hole in the tops for this chopstick. So I have the pizza cutter, so we can cut our crackers out. Yeah, they're not going to be perfect, but they will be delicious. So this will be okay. And then we're going to just take this and put that little hole in them. They could probably be even a little thinner, but we're going to go with it. Maybe the other one I'll roll out even thinner. Okay, so these are ready to get onto our parchment paper, or our parchment lined baking sheet. So I'm just going to use my bench scraper to make quick work of that. And just set them on here as such. But here are these crackers. I'm going to set them there, and we'll roll this one out, and then I'll set these on the next pan, and then we'll get these all in the oven, and I'll show you how those are when they come out. And by then, we should be ready for our next steps with our pretzel dough and be able to continue on that. Okay, so we have the 2 pans now of crackers that are ready. So this one I just rolled out, and this is the other pan. So we're going to go ahead and get these into the oven. And these are going to bake at 350, which I've already preheated my oven. And they're going to bake for about 15 to 20 minutes until golden brown and cooked and crispy. And then we'll let them cool before we package them up. Okay, so while those are baking, I've been measuring out the pretzel bites. And I've got 61 ounces of dough, so I'm going to make them 2-ounce bites. Oh, let me change that to pound. Let me fix that unit. All right. We're about 2 ounces, so this is about the size we're going to get for a pretzel bite. I'm okay with that. I did check to see if I wanted to do a 1 ounce, so that was really small. So we'll just do the 2 ounce here. And then once we get these divided out, then we will bring over to the stove with our boiling water with some baking soda and give them a parboil. By then our crackers should be done and we can get our oven to 450 for the pretzel bites where it needs to be. So I will go ahead and finish measuring these out and bring you back. Okay, so I got 29 pretzel bites rolled after measuring all them out and weighing them out at 2 ounces a piece. And I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of baking soda in our water boiling so that way we can parboil these. And our cheese crackers are almost done, and we'll get our oven where it needs to be so we can start baking these once we do the quick boil in the baking soda. So I'll bring you back when we're ready to do that step. So this is what our crackers look like. Yeah, not super hard yet, but they'll sit and solidify. So I'll set them over here to cool down, and then we'll get our oven temperature where it needs to be so we can do our pretzels. Oh, look at that, Duke. It's just hot, baby. And this is the other pan here. So those look delicious. And very hot, so we'll get those to cool down before we do anything else with those. And I'll get the oven temperature updated. And then we should be ready to start boiling our pretzels because I have the water boiling now as well. Okay, so I'm going to put the oven up to 450 for the pretzel bites. And you can see here I have my water boiling, and I did add my baking soda in here. And Duchess is having an opinion about it apparently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in our our pretzel bites for about 30 seconds and then put them on our baking sheet. Once we get them all done, then we'll get them in the oven. Again, we're just going to drop these in for about 30 seconds for those. And I have a flaky salt that we'll use to put on top also once we bring them out. And they don't need to be in there very long, just the 30 seconds. All out after their 30 seconds here. Out. Get them on our parchment paper. This step is what gives pretzels that chew that you're used to, that you know and love. And also the salt will stick from that as well. And then after we pull those out, then we just take our flaky sea salt, and we're just going to put a couple pieces on the top, like that. And you can see that doing that little bit of a boil helps to hold on to the salt also. That was a big chunk of salt. Okay, so I will go ahead and finish the rest of these, and then I'll bring you back when we're ready to put them in the oven. Okay, so we have them all parboiled and salted. So now they're going to go into the oven at 450 degrees for about 10 to 12 minutes. And I'll bring it back when we have this done. Okay, so we're going to go in and take our pretzel bites out now and take a look and see. Well, they look quite delicious. As you can see, they look, oh, that's hot. Very hot, but they are nice and browned. Let's see if I can show you one here. They look quite delicious. So, I mean, they might be able to use a little bit more browning. So maybe we'll go ahead and put them back in for maybe a few more minutes and rotate the tray. Okay, the oven's going off now after we put it in a little bit longer. Take a look at our pretzel bites. Oh yeah, they look much better now, I think. You can see they look really delicious. We'll let them cool off for just a minute. Well, friends, thanks for tuning in here and hanging out with me today and watching as we made 3 sourdough discard recipes. I did try a bite of one of the pretzel bites, which are very delicious. And I do have some cheese for them, should anyone want to dip them in cheese. The sourdough crackers, really nice and crispy. They turned out really good. I would definitely recommend. I think they need a little more salt though, but still super delicious. Very hearty. And just to kind of give you an idea here, you can see how crispy they are. They're really delicious. And then the tortillas turned out really amazing. My husband and I made us a breakfast burrito with one. And you can just see how flexible, and you can move them, and they turn out delicious. So if you have some sourdough starter discard that you don't know what to do with, these are 3 really delicious ideas that I hope you will give a try. And again, I will try to link below the recipes that I used for today. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Until next time, friends, thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And you have an amazing day. Bye.